Welcome back to Movie Moshow. Today we are going to review the coming-of-age adventure film, There Will Be Blood. If you enjoy our content, please don't forget to like and subscribe. We upload multiple times daily. The story begins in the wilderness of New Mexico in 1898. Daniel Plainview, played by Daniel Day-Lewis, tends to his silver mine. Plainview breaks his leg after using explosives to destroy the little mine. He drags himself out of the mine after discovering the silver ore and into town to sell it. He recruits a team, which includes a man taking care of his little son. Oil is found in the mine by Plainview after the silver lode runs dry. He creates a pump and transforms into an oil man while doing so. After the young father perishes in a drilling mishap, Plainview adopts the child and gives him the name HW. 9 years later, Plainview is a prosperous, if still somewhat unimportant, oil man. He travels the state with HW, Dylan Frezier, who has several profitable wells, to purchase the drilling rights to private property. Plainview gives a presentation on his business strategy to residents of an unnamed town. He claims he does all the work himself, only employs workers he can trust, and will do away with the need for a contractor, a middleman who will take more money from the community than Daniel thinks should go back to the landowners themselves. He further says that his son is a partner in the company and that it is a family-run enterprise. Daniel declines the offer and departs after being subjected to intense interrogation and raucous conversation by the community because he believes they are a little too intelligent to be taken advantage of. After meeting with the couple, Daniel drafts a contract to drill on their property. The couple is reluctant, but Daniel persuades them by mentioning their kids. Some time later, the well bursts forth as a gusher. Paul Sunday, Paul Dano, a young man, stops by Plainview's camp one evening. Paul provides information on his family's ranch in Little Boston, California, to Plainview, claiming that it is surrounded by an ocean of oil. Traveling to the Sunday ranch, Plainview and HW verify what Paul told them while ostensibly hunting quail. That evening, Plainview bargains with Paul's identical sibling Eli, Paul Dano, and the Sunday patriarch Abel, David Willis. Eli is a bland but aspirational preacher and faith healer, and the purchase fee of $10,000 will be used to create a new parish, the Church of the Third Revelation. Daniel consents to give Eli half of the money up front and the remaining amount after the derrick starts producing. Eli requests a prayer to seal the deal, but Plainview declines. At the Sunday ranch, Plainview gathers his team and begins construction on the first derrick. In order to avoid the railroads and their transportation fees, he purchases practically all of the land surrounding the Sunday ranch in addition to the drilling rights. This will allow him to build a pipeline to the coast. Only one person, William Bandy, is reluctant to sell. Before drilling starts, Eli wishes to dedicate the derrick, but Plainview rejects him and has Eli's younger sister Mary, Sydney McAllister, do it instead. HW and Mary start playing together, and Plainview gives Mary a new frock. One evening at supper, he promises Mary in front of Abel that her father won't ever slap her again for disobeying him. Eli and Plainview are still getting on each other's nerves. Plainview finds it offensive that Eli asks his employees to attend daily prayer services because they need relaxation, while Eli gripes to him about employees drinking. However, Plainview instructs Eli to handle funeral arrangements after a worker perishes while attempting to liberate the drill. He witnesses Eli deliver a dramatic sermon on driving the devil from an elderly woman with severe arthritis as they are gathering to discuss the burial at his run-down church. Eli says he will speak at the burial after Mass and informs Daniel that if he had been allowed to bless the well, the accident might not have occurred. Eli ultimately amasses enough funds to construct the Church of the Third Revelation, which he names after himself. Eventually, the drill hits oil a few days later. An explosion results from the gases fleeing. HW is deaf and was seeing the drill from the derrick. He has a sour attitude and mistrust. Within the Little Boston area, Plainview will soon have 3 productive oil wells. When Daniel promised Eli and his church $5,000, Eli goes to Daniel and demands it. Eli is instantly attacked by Daniel, who slaps him and drags him to a puddle of mud before covering Eli with it. Daniel also makes fun of Eli's purported ability to do faith healing, claiming that Eli did nothing to help HW regain his hearing. Shortly after that, Henry, Kevin O'Connor, claims to be Plainview's half-brother and shows up at his house. Plainview hires him as a laborer since he has information about his family in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, his hometown. Plainview acknowledges to Henry that he views the majority of people with contempt and only utilizes them to promote his own objectives. He tells him, "I have a competition in me. I do not want anyone else to succeed." He also acknowledges that he can no longer do his work alone. HW prances through Henry's possessions and makes an attempt to set fire to the home where Plainview and Henry are staying because he is envious that Plainview has a new person in his life. HW is sent to a boarding school in San Francisco by Plainview, who decides he can no longer handle him and does not punish him. He is abruptly left on the train with Fletcher, his assistant, who goes with him. Competitors attempt to pay $1 million for Daniel's wells, but Plainview rejects their bid and their patronizing support for HW. Plainview threatens the life of a rival who proposes that he should retire so that he can take care of HW. He visits the Bandy property with Henry to ask about renting the land for the pipeline's construction. They swim in the ocean after assessing the terrain. Plainview becomes alarmed when Henry doesn't appear to get a reference to Fond du Lac. That evening, Plainview threatens Henry with a gun and gets him to admit that he is not his brother but did know him in Kansas. Henry adopted the genuine brother's identity after he passed away, traveled to California, and then located Daniel. Henry is murdered by Plainview, who then buries him on the Bandy farm in a little grave. The following morning, Plainview is awakened by Bandy, Hans House, who informs him that he can lease the property if he consents to being baptized at the Church of the Third Revelation. Bandy admits that he knows Plainview killed Henry, and Plainview is forced to concur. After publicly confessing his sin and leaving HW, being forcefully slapped by Eli on the dais, and receiving warm embraces from the congregation, he is baptized. Eli also informs the congregation that Daniel has given them $5,000, the sum he owed Eli initially. When HW gets home from the boarding school, Plainview welcomes him with open arms. HW currently uses an interpreter and speaks in sign language. While playing together, Mary also picks up sign language. She signs the minister's sermon and marriage ceremonies to him when they get married in the late 1920s. Living alone on a vast estate and shooting his treasures with a pistol, Plainview has devolved into a drinker who is even more misanthropic and isolated than before. In response to HW's declaration that he plans to relocate to Mexico and launch his own oil company, Plainview dejectedly admits that HW is not his biological child and insultingly disowns him. Eli finds Daniel unconscious on the floor of the mansion's bowling alley when he goes to see him later. Eli informs Plainview that old Bandy has passed away and that his grandson wants to sell the oil drilling rights to his grandfather's land in order to finance his dream of becoming a movie star, with Eli acting as the deal's broker. Plainview is gnawing on the cold steak that remains from his dinner like a beast. Plainview concurs, but only if Eli agrees to claim that he is a false prophet and God is a superstition. Eli repeats this multiple times, and Plainview admits that he has already extracted oil from the Bandy Ranch through drainage because he owns all the wells surrounding it. Eli admits that he is broke as a result of poor investments, despite having a thriving radio preaching career. After chasing him around the bowling alley, Plainview kills him by hitting him with a bowling pin. Plainview declares unfinished when the butler arrives to investigate the ruckus. Thank you for watching and don't forget to like and subscribe.